gamers, welcome once again to Red Steel Gaming Presents. Today we're doing an RPG focus, and we're going to be talking about Arkham Horror.
Arkham Horror.
The role-playing game, where you could play a guy named Joey Diamond.
Ooh.
Brought to you by Dan Primark here at Red Steel Gaming. I had an opportunity to play this game with my four friends here, my buddy Faiz.
Yo.
My buddy Sal.
Greetings.
And my buddy Christopher. As well as my nephew Eric and our buddy Waylon.
Yes.
Joined us in an adventure with Joey Diamond.
Through the streets of Arkham.
Yeah. This was brought up to us by Chris. You had originally seen this, right? And you're like, hey, guys, do you want to try it?
What
Straight out the box?
This came out Gen Con. The starter box came out. I didn't really pay it any mind. You know, we weren't playing role-playing games. The store was busy. We weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons. We had a chance to go to PAX. PAX, they put out the core book that's here. You can buy it at Red Steel Gaming. They put out the core book, and they really showed what the future plan was and the idea of what it was. And we got to see what was inside of that core book, like that core box. So most times you get a core box, and it's like some pre-generated characters, which are always nice. Which this has pre-generated characters, obviously. It's usually got a really, really thin pamphlet of rules, which this did. But the thing that kind of drove me over the top is, I like Arkham. Arkham Horror 2nd edition was my first board game that wasn't Chutes and Ladders. So like that was number one. I love the Arkham setting. I love Cthulhu. I love the H.P. Lovecraft of it all. And then they started showing us like all the like cool like handouts that you get. Like this one is written in some sort of eldritch text, and one of the adventures goes to a certain location, and they get like a morgue report about something that happened to somebody, and there's notes on the back. Like the quality of the stuff that was in the box put it on another level. And as a board gamer who can teach a board game, this felt like an RPG board game. I could open the box, we could play it, we could close the box and never visit it again, or we could open the box, really enjoy it, and then continue through the big RPG book and continue on our adventure.
Expand it, yeah.
Basically Pandora's box.
A little bit, yeah.
And we've played Edge Studios has other IPs and games under their umbrella, and we've played the Star Wars role playing game, which is they tender and has a completely different dice system than this. And this was an intriguing part, was that it was all D6s.
And that was one of the things like I wasn't really super into at first, because the Edge games, I love Star Wars. It's like my favorite IP in the world, but those games are a little inapproachable, I guess is the better word to say. Whereas the dice are all unique. The dice have symbols, not numbers. You have to really dive into the book, and it's a complete group experience. Like we talked about, the dice system is cool, don't get me wrong, but everybody at the table has to buy in. Yeah. And I feel like experience matters.
Yes, it's hard for new players.
Faiz,
like
this was your very first RPG experience. Yeah. Like it might, like I think Star Wars would have been hard for him. And honestly, I'm not the seasoned, grizzled veteran that these two guys are. Like it was hard for me to kind of.
It's still daunting. Even just looking at those dice pools and rolling them and translating them can be, it takes a lot of practice, and you don't really want to practice when you've got new people at the table too.
Exactly. Yeah. But this, as Sal said, this is like a really simple D6 system. And if anybody's familiar with Arkham Horror, it's not just always about like getting physically hurt; it's about getting mentally hurt. And they had a really, really good horror damage system in this that was unique and really ratcheted up a little bit of the, I have one horror, whatever, I can deal with it. I got two, it's getting a little harder. I have 6 now, and every roll I make is it could be detrimental. Like it really amped up the pressure as you got through like a really good section of the campaign. So it was an interesting and easy enough that was the first game I've DM'd D&D for like my friends and my wife and stuff. So that's kind of low maintenance, honestly, because like they're all kind of new to it. I haven't DM'd that for you guys. I probably never would. I felt comfortable DMing this for you guys, even though you guys were super, super veterans and knew what you were doing, because I think the system warranted it. I think it was easy enough. Yeah. And the idea of it being kind of a board game in the box, I added some stuff. Like I added the map of Arkham and gave them a little more onus where they could go. I added a few things in the puzzles, but honestly, I played the box as is, pretty much to the letter for the most part, with a couple additions here and there, and reaction to what you guys did. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, it was right out of the box. I felt very comfortable doing it, and we haven't come back to it since the box ended. I left it in a place where we could. We'll see if that ever happens.
I would say that I think it will, because I mean, the system itself is interesting enough that it's not overcomplicated, but not so simple that I was bored. Mm-hmm. It had enough there where it wasn't something that was like in my way. it was like just something that was just kind of there, but then I could still just enjoy the game and my character and my role playing, especially because I got to play Joey Diamond. So
Yeah, the detective,
private
whose house burned down. We won't get into that.
Private-
That was the joy of that adventure.
Private Dick of Arkham, who does not like a certain woman named Lita and her torches. Bitch burned down my house. That's what I'm gonna say.
That
So I'm
really
gonna
wasn't in the. It's not in the. It wasn't in the
That
story.
was
It
something
just-
I added.
It was
yes.
something
She
he added
went
because
there.
he just wants to destroy everything I own,
But
including
Faiz,
my home.
and Faiz, this was your first RPG
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you like it?
I thought it was pretty easy and pretty approachable. I'm not like experienced in RPGs. It kind of felt like a board game, and I think having you guys around and like Chris being a really good DM, he really made it like super fun and easy and pretty simple and straightforward. I think there were some like restrictive properties of the book, but Chris made it work at almost every angle, and he made us all like pretty much feel like comfortable and easy to like navigate the universe.
Did you like when he spoke like a little girl or like an old woman or like a creepy wolf or whatever we were fighting? I mean, that's always
Yes.
great, right?
That's the best part of role playing, right?
They were all very good.
They
and
were all very good.
Very believable.
They were not very good, but they were there. They
No, they were-
existed, but they were not very good.
They were great. When he got comfortable, it was fantastic.
Yes.
And it was for me the first time in a long time that we played an RPG that was set in our world. So it was like 1920s, late 20s, beginning of
End
the
of
30s.
World War One.
And World War I just ended,
Yeah.
and Arkham is going through. There's some occult going on, and
Has
weird
that-
stuff's happening.
With the weird stuff. And it was fun being to like, oh, the phone's ringing, but then that phone's not like your normal phone. It's an old,
Yeah.
like, and like, they got lights and then like, they
Yeah.
have certain things that we could associate with our time, but it was still of old.
Yeah, it's the cool stuff. Like prohibition and gangsters exist, and so do the cops. And sometimes they're not as law abiding as you would hope
Yeah.
the cops
Yeah.
would be. And like all those quintessential gangster 1920s movies wrapped into one. Oh, and by the way, there's tentacles coming out of the ground that are trying to swallow
or
you whole.
cultists
Yeah.
and stuff.
That-
like,
I mean, that's the extreme part of it for sure. But there is some like normalcy there, and then you
Yeah.
add that, and that just made it. That's what
Yeah.
made it more of an horror part of it. Just made it more
Yeah.
enticing.
and it was
it's not just
fun too, and like the house is burning down, and I'm like, well, the fire department's not going to get here because it's not like there's no internet, and like this call's not going out right away.
Yeah,
There's
and-
some lady on a switchboard putting in
And we
like
didn't
things.
even. Well, but not for nothing. My house burned down. I didn't call nobody.
No, you
I was just busy chasing that bitch Lita. who burned my
Nobody
shit
called
down.
I should go check back what happened.
yeah. But the system, like how it worked, and like when you look at I was alas poor York, William York, the local gravedigger, and they give you a great like, they break down the game here and what you could do in your actions, and I thought that was very interesting. There's two forms of kind of scenarios or scenes that you play through. You play through narrative, which is very loose and open, and you kind of just, hey, I want to go walk over here and check this out. And then when you got to the more of the combat, if you want to call it that, it's structured. That's where it became more refined, and you had to spend dice on certain skills.
I think the game really shined in the structured scenes. I think the rules really shine there because one person couldn't run the party. Everybody had to work together, and you could blow all of your dice. You could blow all of your actions, and you had to wait for everybody else to get around and do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it was very good in that fashion. The narrative scene was the thing that I think I had to change the most, and I think that evolved as we went from the first session through like the fourth or fifth session, which this game took us, I think, 4 or 5 sessions to get through the box.
We were learning how to play the game and how to use our resources.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
what
And it
we-
probably would have moved a little bit slower if you had made certain, you adapted certain things through the narrative part and stuff. But I mean, and plus, if you're familiar with any Warhammer product or GW products, like because it's 6-sided, like when you had a 4+ ability, you were pretty good. 3, you were fantastic. There was no 2+.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the perfect game for GW players because it's literally the same
Six-sided.
system.
Yeah, your abilities
that was
are all
pretty
in
much
that.
me. Like all my dice game experience is pretty much
Yeah.
Warhammer.
And you get to choose. So basically, you have 6 dice that sit on these certain slots for your character. Those are also your health. So as you got damaged, you lost a dice. When your dice would refill, there'd be a wound counter there. So as you got more hurt over time, or a dice turned from a regular die into a hard die, they were all on your character sheet here. I really enjoyed that part. I really like seeing it, and
the horror mechanic is cool because you can see how the stress of what they're experiencing. Because in the end, I'm a private investigator. I'm used to maybe investigating why somebody cheated on somebody's wife or who knocked off the local liquor store. Now I'm seeing things that are supernatural.
Yeah.
I'm seeing, mutated humans. I'm seeing
compounding.
People,
my wording is for compounding. Like, so that first time you see something weird, you're like, oh, that's kind of strange. And you have this kind of like moment of like, I guess I'll continue. But then the second time you had horror, the third time it compounds. And every time that you're rolling on there's basically a chart that you roll on. Every time you have to roll on it, you're adding 1 to your success, to your roll, which is not good.
No, yeah.
The first time that you roll on the horror chart or the damage chart for that instance, you're not dying. There's no way that you're going to have any problems. But the second, third, fourth time, that actually, like Wei is now lost in time and space. Like he got so much horror that he rolled.
This female character, her mind just collapsed.
She broke
based from the horror that she was just seeing too much.
That was a pretty good cool thematic.
Yeah, like she's still alive. That character's still alive, and if we went back, you might see her again.
Lost in her own mind.
But she's lost in her own mind. Like she is not there, even though her body still is.
It's the true definition of horror.
Yeah.
Complete. She is
cosmic horror, especially this type of
and
horror.
It's cosmic horror. She's horrified.
Yeah. The incomprehensible things you would witness in this kind of setting. And we were at the light setting. We're doing some like physical cultists and some other tangible beings, but the reality of what's behind them is that's very Lovecraftian.
That's what's different about this system for me as a guy. It's mostly a fantasy or sci-fi role player. Is you make a character in a D&D setting. You're a barbarian. You're trained. You've seen these things. You know of dragons. You've heard of demons. You've seen these creatures before. Maybe not every one of them, but maybe you've heard of it. It's not too. Don't get me wrong. There are horror aspects of D&D.
But you're an adventurer, right? You signed on for this. Like you kind of know the world.
We are. I'm literally a regular Joe. Joe Diamond is a regular Joe. She's a college student, and we're seeing these horrific things that are unfathomable to you, so you can understand. I mean, the horror of it. It just fits perfectly.
I think the changing of the dice was really like a way to force us to experience it instead of like we can't really experience it because we're like, oh yeah, like cultists and tentacles, cool. But like the dice forces you to like, no, you are like grasping on strings. With
and then the chart, and then the chart of those horror dice make it when you actually suffer it, the severity gets more and more, and the drawbacks are things that are mostly psychological, not physical.
Yeah. Yes. As Sal said, you start off with 6 dice. You have 6 actions that you can take with those dice, and if you want to do something and you want to be successful, you could spend multiple dice. So I want to pick the lock to get into that thing. You roll 1 die. You have to get a success of like a 3 up. If you don't get it, the door is locked, and you can't retry it again.
Only do it once.
So instead of only spending 1 die, well, I'm going to spend 3 of my 6 dice, and I'm going to roll 3 of them to try to get that success. And now I'm going to have a better chance of opening the door. Sometimes Faiz was the perfect person to like not roll successes on anything of that one adventure.
Yeah, and throw how many dice at it. I'm like, I didn't get a single.
You're like always like missing, swinging with your baseball bat or something.
Yeah, whenever it was crucial, that's when I'm missing.
But then what happens is like Sal said, if you take physical damage, you actually lose dice until you kind of take a chance to relax or take some strain is what it's called in the game. And you can get all your dice back, but now you're rolling on the damage table. The way that horror dice work is you still get to keep all your dice. You still have all 6, but now we're going to change the color to I had green dice that I used. Then you're going to have a green die, and you can do anything you want with that die. But if you ever roll a 1 on it, you get horrified, and you have to roll on that next chart.
It's
and
like you're having a flashback or a buildup of like bad things happen.
Yeah, it's like PTSD is striking you hard. And when we got to that final fight, I think 3 of you had all 6 of your dice were horror dice.
Yeah, any dice left were all green horror dice.
Because not to spoil anything, you get to see the culmination of what's been going on in Arkham in this specific scenario, and it's horrifying. It's like something you've never seen before, and it literally drove Wei's character insane.
And I think for a starter set too, what I loved was like when you look at the back of these sheets, like we each had to read our own profiles. It's kind of like the story. This was Yorick's background and kind of like what he's doing in Arkham and where he's the clues he's seen, and we had to all like get together and talk about our characters. Hey, I've been seeing strange happenings like bodies missing, and supposedly the morgue at the local hospital has some suspicious activity. Yeah. So that was really fun being able to put all our clues together and go, oh, you know what? We should go here. So instead of doing the whole D&D, we're in a tavern, you guys want to get a job and we want to make money as an adventurer, this pushed us to, hey, you know what? Like you're missing your college friend is missing. Like this could be, tied into that. Let's go investigate this together. So we got kind of forced together quicker.
It's something an experienced DM will do for a new player group, but this is even better that way because you don't always have the experienced DM.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you're still relatively new to DMing, so it helps a DM
No,
or a
it-
game master say, here, I don't have to create all that other backstory and that meeting at a tavern. It's here already.
Listen, I've bought the starter sets for D&D, and I've looked at them, I've read them. I'm like, I still don't know if I feel comfortable doing this because like I know the people I play it, even though I've done it before. It's still a little bit hard to kind of jump into as a new player. I feel comfortable doing that now because I've sat through your game, your D&D game. Kind of him DMing taught me how to DM my own group, but I would still never play D&D with you guys. I will never be your DM because it's I can't try it. But this not only was the system a little simpler, but the way that it's presented made it where, you know what, I do feel confident enough that I can bring it in front of these two guys that have played for, some odd years together. And I think it went pretty well, and I think it was good. So if you are a new DM and have a group of people that want to try RPGing, but D&D is maybe a little intimidating, trust me, this is not. This is really, really good. And maybe you're just into horror more than you're into fantasy. And that's another avenue.
And like the time frame, because it's rooted in our history, it's a little more easy to, stretch of the imagination kind of thing. And like, what would you do in this situation?
You don't have to like go over the top and like, what would an elf do? Like you're like a human person.
Should we go to the cops?
What would you do?
Like, can you go to the cops?
Like one of the things that I added some real world history. So that if we ever did play again, there was a hook to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I was able to 1920s, what's going on in the world, and it literally tells you in the preamble of the story. This is Prohibition era after the Great Depression, and the Industrial Revolution is happening. So that kind of gives you that kind of mindset. Not everybody owns a car. Not everybody owns a phone. There's no such thing as cell phones. You don't have to worry about that. Like really, really interesting setting. Really, really interesting starter set, and just a really, really easy entry point for the novice and the veteran.
Now, also, if you've also played role-playing games before and you are interested in Arkham, the core setting has that level of depth for you to go. Maybe you've already tried it in other versions of a game like this. That the core rulebook has everything you need to make your own guys and go that route too. So with more options, obviously. But
this is just us basically riffing on the point of entry and getting and learning a new role playing. This is without a doubt the easiest. And I've been playing a lot of role playing games in 30 years. This is almost like the pinnacle of new game master, new players, easy to pick up. Even like a guy as a veteran player, it's like, oh, I'm not a big horror guy. It's not my forte. I mean, I like some, but this actually introduced me into something. Now I did like it. I did enjoy it. So it was an easy access for me, especially as a player that didn't want to put the time in to do all the reading or whatever. Well, put it right in front of me as a veteran. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, how's this mechanic work? I got the mechanics down. The role play part was even easier because it's just a PI from an older era. I've seen
Johnson,
Wisconsin. I've seen this a million times before, and I just had to learn that little part of what the heck is going on with this Arkham horror stuff, and it wasn't that hard, and it was interesting, and we had a great time. So, other than the fact that my house got burnt down.
Yeah, but it was definitely a fun experience. Definitely would do this again or go deeper into it.
And the good news is the Edge has a plan. We can't talk about like what that plan is, but like they do have a line of things that are coming out. They plan on putting out, more stuff. So right now what's out is that box is out. The core book is out. And they actually just last week put out a supplement, which is more scenarios, more jump starting. Like here's your impetus, here's your story. Go forth and,
like
and
a
do
book
your
of
thing.
adventures, basically, more or less.
But they
more
have
starter type adventures too.
They have a plan in place, and they're going to put out more products. So it's definitely going to have some legs and grow. I'm excited for it.
And RPGs are without a doubt one of the most affordable hobbies to get into.
Yeah,
you could group by the box, split it.
That box is $40,
Yeah,
and
so
it was worth every penny. And
Yeah.
we played 4 or 5 sessions, 5 or 6 hours a time.
Yeah, we got 40 hours out of it almost.
Yeah,
you know?
it was
easy.
$1 an hour
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
6 people at a table.
Yeah, and
so
if you all chipped in for it,
if
whatever,
you all
it's-
chipped in 20 cents, somebody got to do it for free.
We spent
And
more money on the
D6s
food.
are like
We spent more money on the
$10.
food we ordered every
Probably,
week.
yeah.
Yeah, I would almost. We had said, we were like, I kind of wish Star Wars had this dice system. I wish that, Edge would be like, this is a good thing.
Or not even just the dice system, like keep your dice, but give me that experience where I can feel confident opening the box up and having it like as a board gamer, as a guy who teaches board games. that felt more like teaching a board game and than it did an RPG when it came to like me getting you guys invested.
Yeah.
And then it turned into an RPG on top of the board game experience almost. So it was very comfortable opening that box and seeing what it was. And
as a veteran game master, I would say that this would be an ideal way to show people that have not role played before. So even though, I've played all these games before, it's easy for me to pick up. So as a game master, it's easy to pick up. And then as for me to show a player, you're right, it's a board game. And then the only thing I have to show them or teach them is how to role play a little bit. Like, imagine you were that guy. How would he talk? If you want to, a lot of times it's hard unless they have, movie experience and watched Lord of the Rings.
Video games.
You can make references. It's a lot easier to reference a college student in a certain period or a PI in a certain period.
You're from down south. Just say y'all a lot.
It's a lot more
that
real
could have
world
been the
reference.
diner worker.
Yes, right? A lot more real world reference for the role playing aspect of the game.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier than me telling you to act like Elrond.
And Chris was able to spice our game up a little bit because you have all the miniatures from the other Arkham games that are out from FFG.
The characters in this Fantasy Flight and Edge are together. They didn't reinvent the wheel. So Mansions of Madness had all of the miniatures. So Joe Diamond, who was in the box set, was a miniature in Mansions of Madness. So if you have that board game, you now have the miniature as well. The box comes with chits and stuff, and it comes with mats, and it comes with all the stuff that you need. You don't need anything beyond that, but you can ramp it up with a little bit of flair if you have some of the other products that FFG's done in the past.
And I highly recommend Joe Diamond because he dual wields pistols.
It does.
Yeah, 2 pistols. Got a shotgun.
I eventually found a shotgun later, but the pistols were my
So we had the grave digger who wanted to be a Shakespearean actor. We
Yes,
had
alas, poor Yorick with a shovel. He had swung that many times.
we had the and you noticed that something was happening in the graveyard that looked. Reedy Young was the athlete,
college
the student
athlete who
Her friend
had
was
a missing
missing.
friend, but she used her athletic abilities to her advantage.
We had Joe Diamond, the PI. What was Way's character? He was the psychologist. I don't remember her name
Mrs.
though.
Fern.
Yeah.
She was like a psychologist, so she was kind of.
And she tied in with your backstory because you both knew something weird was going on at the hospital.
Yeah, she knew people at the hospital, and then Eric's character.
Eric was the librarian.
Yeah, but she actually had the Necronomicon, which we didn't know until like midway that she was able to like harness spells in there. And
Yeah, she was actually like a witch.
Yeah, she was a spellcaster.
She was an elf, and that was Eric. I mean, like just mic drop that. I mean,
This is true. We gave him the perfect character.
He was the perfect.
I guess just to wrap this up, if you've ever wanted to RPG, but you felt intimidated to DM, or you felt intimidated to kind of bring it to a new group, this is the perfect entry point for that particular game set, that game group, because it's affordable, it's easy, and it plays like a board game.
And if you're coming from like the more prototypical stuff, and you've never tried the Arkham Horror stuff and all the Lovecraft stuff, as a veteran that has never really dabbled in it,
It's good.
It's good. It's easy. It gets you to the point, let you know what the big deal is with the horror stuff, and you could try it out, and it's the rules are simple but still intuitive, so it's fun.
Cool. Let's do it again. Hopefully.
I recommend.
Would you?
Definitely
That's his first dose.
First experience
of
I want to
somewhat
do more, for sure.
extended play experience.
We'll get you D&D. Don't worry. We'll get there. But this was,
One day.
This was a
One
great.
day.
This was a
One
great
day.
starting point.
We're gonna have to film that one day when it happens for sure. So, anyway, definitely check it out. This is Arkham Horror, the role-playing game. Thank you for joining us here at Red Seal Gaming Presents. And as I always like to say, never stop gaming.
Have a good night.